Greetings, NWA fans. This is Allison Kay, and welcome to episode 4 of Girl Powerrr. This week, Martibelle and I are joined by our friend and former WCW cruiserweight champion, Daffney. We get into a variety of topics during this conversation, and some are more sensitive than others. These opinions are ours, and I hope you enjoy the show. This is Allison Kay, and I will be your host for this episode of Girl Powerrr, alongside the beautiful Martibelle, and our special guest for this episode, the Scream Queen, Daffney. Daffney, thank you so much for being with us today.
I am more than honored to be in the presence of you ladies. I'm so happy that I can see y'all's faces. Or nobody else.
I'm just cheesing the entire time. I wish people could see. I think I'm just sitting here staring at staring at you guys, like, hi guys. It's so good to see you, and we are so happy to have you with us today, and I'm super excited about this episode. I think it's gonna be great.
So just a little background for the fans. We actually met Daffney at Shine Wrestling in Florida. I know that I met you in July of 2012, so almost 8 years ago exactly.
Oh my goodness.
And Marty, when did you start with Shine? Was it like Shine 4 or Shine 3?
Yeah, I think it was Shine 3, but I didn't work with Daffney then. It was once Jamie and I became a tag team, so 2014 or 15. I guess technically our first feud at Shine as a tag team was with you guys. Yeah.
Daff's ass. Yeah. That was all Sal. He's like, okay, your faction, we got to, with Valkyrie and all this stuff. And he's like, okay, Daff's all-star squad. So Daff's, and it's funny. It sucks to kind of get pigeonholed in the comedy stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Even though people don't really put they think Daffney evil, and I'm like, no, I usually do the comedy stuff actually. But yeah, it was Solo and Heidi Lovelace and you and Jamie, and you put Solo through a table, and
we did.
And Andrea was out there, and we were in the ring, and I was just going, no.
It was such a fun time, and when we put Solo through the table, that was actually the first time that I've ever put somebody through a table, and we were so nervous about it because we're like, what if the table doesn't break? So we ended up actually like double suplexing her through it so that all of us would go through it to make sure it broke. And because we were trying to protect her so much, I ended up getting my foot caught under it. I don't know if I ever told anybody about that. I have a scar on my leg from where the table broke, and my foot ended up actually getting caught under it. So my ankle was messed up for months after that.
Oh, no.
And I remember because I aged in at that, so we were doing all the blocking for it, and I remember like, where the frick are we going to put this table? Because the Orpheum, it's you
pretty
can
tight.
go on the bar, or you can go on the stage. Other than that, there's really not very many places to.
I think because of that, at one point, the idea was to do it from the apron, like from the apron to the ground. And we were like,
initially was.
Yeah, that's probably not going to work. So we ended up kind of putting it catty corner. So if you weren't by the ring, thankfully there are roaming cameras, but if you weren't by that spot, you kind of missed it because we just didn't have the space to be able to safely do it.
Yeah, and that's what you were saying. It was like the blocking was so difficult for that because at first it was Sal wants so, and we were like, first of all, Solo's never been through a table, and Marty put anybody through a table, and I don't think Jamie had at that point. Maybe
no,
I don't think so. So yeah, I'm glad we're talking about that because my workers' comp claim against TNA, everything was over with, and I ran into Sal at WrestleCon in Miami. And I hadn't seen much evolve or anything because after my injury, pretty much for the 2 years that I was going through the comp claim, I was at home on my couch. Physically, I was, I couldn't do what I loved anymore. But then my mental health also kicked in where I had agoraphobia. I was even afraid to leave the house. I had Lexi bringing me over food and stuff because I was just so severely injured. And then it was in a period of times where still concussions weren't really taken seriously. And it's so ironic because right after that happened with me, and they did the stuff with Mr. Anderson, like was he like faking a concussion or something? I don't even remember. Like they didn't quite understand the severity of it all, but. So I had been away for a couple of years. I didn't even want to jeopardize, and I knew I was never going to wrestle again anyway at that point. But I did go to the con. I saw Sal, and he's like, "I want to start an all women's group," and I'm like, "I'm in."
Sold. Okay, let's do it.
So you came in as the hostess at first, right? When I think about you and Shine, I think about your top hats, your little top hats.
I'm just exactly. I'm picturing you in a little top hat and a cute dress. Like that's my first image.
I was at that point in my career. I had done so many different versions of Daffney, and like being a hostess and trying to be a baby face when I'm a natural heel, but like a funny heel, So I just, but it was really cool because our first show, July. I have the poster, July 20th, 2012. So I've known AK 8 years, and you probably about 7.
Yeah.
When I came in, and I was like, Sal, we need to bring Lexi in. She's got Slammin' Lady. She's got more of the know of who the people are that we need to be looking at. Because I had been on my couch hurt for so long, and I couldn't even go manage or do anything. And then we brought in Howard, and then after Jerry saw how good it was going, then Jerry jumped on board. So, and then of course with Jelly, we made sure that we were sister promotions with Dave Prazak. I call him
some context.
I was like, who?
See, I told you, AK out here with a who, and I'm like, oh, I met Prazak in like 2002 at IWA Mid South, and we used to go up in the crow's nest and do commentary, and we were peanut butter and jelly, and I was, and I'd say, what flavor jelly? Well, he's boysenberry, not to be mistaken with girls and berry. I don't know why. And they did it. And what kind of peanut butter? Well, extra crunchy. And I mean, and then
That's good peanut butter.
Well, sorry?
That's good peanut butter.
Yep.
You have to have extra crunchy. And then I remember we were doing commentary, and there was some kid, and you just go up there, cut up there. Tracy Smothers would come up there, all of us, and this guy was gonna send, like, he had a star on the back of his trunks, and I'm like, what's up with this dude? He's got a star in his butthole. What's his name? And I was just being goofy. He come to find out that dude was sending the tape, and it was a good match for him too. I was like, just mute the commentary, dude.
Oh my goodness.
I was the color, Jelly's the play-by-play. So I was just ripping into everybody,
Oh my goodness.
I know the feeling.
Jelly. I guess 15th anniversary of Shimmer's coming up, and I think I started on doing commentary on like volume 3 or something. So,
holy cow.
Yeah, wow. I know we're kind of like fast forwarding in your career a little bit with like starting off talking about Shine, but that is where we met you.
Yeah.
And I know I talked to you last week briefly and mentioned that one of my favorite memories from Shine overall that stands out for me is the time that we all came over your house after and we threw like a little party and we did the Harlem Shake video that might still be on YouTube, actually.
On my YouTube channel. And you can put it in the podcast. I give you the rights.
It was me, you, I think Madison Eagles. Who else was there? Like Kelly Skater, Courtney Rush.
Is Skater, Courtney Rush, Rhea O'Reilly, Shazza, Sue Young, Madison Eagles, Bailey, AK.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, because there's the picture of me, you, Rhea, and Bailey in your bed, I think, because I had to take a nap for like 2 hours before I had to go to the airport. So Daffney let me sleep in her bed, which was like the most comfortable bed I've ever laid in before. I think you had a Tempur-Pedic, right?
And Allison's my favorite. Like, as you know, she's seriously. I tell her I'm my favorite, and I talked to her about this, Marty, on the phone, and I'm just gonna say it over and over again. And when I say it, I just so genuinely mean it. She really is. I just everything, and I mean, you are too. I haven't been able to see so much of your work, but when they came in, Made in Sin, her and Taylor, it was like they had been together. It was like instant, because I know it's hard to get that tag rhythm when you haven't tagged. When I started tagging with Chiff, I can watch a tag match and go, why'd they do that? They hit the wrong. And then if I'm in it, I'm like, which way do I go? But they right away started to float, and I just immediately she stood out way above I'm like, that girl's gonna be a superstar. And when people, and so then I got a little bit pressured into, well, Daff, you're a vet of the locker room. You need to be teaching some of these young girls, because some of the young girls didn't quite have the absolute joy and politeness and respect that you, as you were younger coming up, and now you're just established superstars. But it's so appreciated as a veteran that's been doing this for 20 years, the respect that I was shown at Shine. And me being a jobber and feeling irrelevant a lot, it really meant a lot. And there were people to keep the eye on. You are one of them too, Marty. You have this unique look, and when I think I just think spunky. She's so spunky. I just love her, but that was a joy to watch that, and it was so sad because I did it for 3.5 years, and then my final Shine, one of the final times I did really anything with wrestling, is I didn't know, but my thyroid ended up just being completely depleted, and then I went into perimenopause at 39. So
Wow.
viewers at home can't see, or listeners, but I gained a tremendous amount of weight, which goes into fat shaming. Guys and girls go into that, and y'all's first topic of cyberbullying. During the quarantine, I had the pleasure of reading some of the comments, and I'm like, have you seen her now? She looks like a mixture of Roseanne and Ozzy Osbourne. And I cried, because you're in quarantine and then finally you guys had the whole block disc, what do you do? And I had to learn, yes. I'm so glad Misty Sampson called you and gave you the Iggy. Like,
right.
I love Misty. I love her.
Me too.
It's so much. It helps so much mentally. And it's something that I still need to remind myself constantly about.
Yeah, and I wrote it in the back, like, how many times I go, in my day, like, I'm like, oh no, in my day. But, I didn't have that. It was mostly, sometimes I was the only chick in the locker room on a lot of indie shows.
I actually wanted to ask you about that, both of those things actually, but the first thing that you just reminded me of was I wanted to ask you about how you got fan feedback back in the day, because I know, like, when I was starting, it's weird to think that I started wrestling before Twitter was a thing. But I know that when I started, it was like the message boards, and people would say, like, never read the message boards. And that turned into never read the YouTube comments. So, like, what about before even message boards? Like, you started wrestling in 1999, right?
Right. And it was I graduated from college in 98. So I got by, like, I was the last semester where you literally had to print out a paper and hand it in. Your paper's due today. Here. I mean, I'm old school. I always say I'm grizzled. So, so I escaped. The next year they made it mandatory for students to have the university email. I went to Georgia State University in downtown Atlanta. And have y'all noticed since I've moved back how thick my accent is?
I was like, I know, especially since we were talking about Georgia. I'm like,
I was.
Wait a minute.
I was playing it up for y'all, but I'll be like, Smiley, my cat that gives high fives. I'm like, you want to sit in the window? and Dee, my ride or die, she's like, what'd you say? And I'm like, oh, I need my pillow. But I kind of didn't. I went to middle school, high school, and college here. But then I also lived overseas, so I had a British accent for a while. My mother's British. So I've run the gambit of all the accents. But I was listening to AK, and she was like, an old soul. And I'm like, oh, there's that old up there.
A little bit of Midwestern accent. I always say AK doesn't really have an accent. I feel like her voice is, but there are certain words that you're like, ooh, she's from the Midwest.
Look, first of all, don't come at me like that. It does. It'll be with the A's. The A's come out sometimes.
And no, I'm doing this cute. Like, I've learned to embrace I'm a Southern belle. And my daddy was born and raised in the South. So I just, since I've moved back, and it came back so fast. I'm y'all and all that, but Anyway,
Oh yeah.
I got off topic.
No, it's okay. What was fan feedback like before social media, before message boards?
Okay, so that's why I got, because of the email. So, I never went on the internet. I didn't understand people doing this. You had to dial up, put a disc in,
Yep.
the noise, and then maybe they can fix it in post and play that annoying noise. And and you know what? Me and Lagana, he was one of my AOL Instant Messenger friends.
God.
And my name was Ryan Sproul, because my name's Shannon Sproul. And I had gotten a divorce, and my name was Shannon Ward. And I'm like, I just want my name back. My name is Sproul. It rhymes with cool. So I was rhymes with cool at AOL, and you'd get on in the morning, Prazak, Hero, Lagana, but that was later. But before that, like right when WCW, when I was like, first time I got asked for my autograph, it was me, David, and Crowbar walking out the arena. And, the fans kind of, sometimes the bigger arenas, they're like, right there kind of near the parking lot. And they're like, oh, it's Daffney, scream for us. And then who signed this? And I was like, sign it? And Crowbar goes, they want your autograph. How does Daffney sign her? I mean, I know how to spell it. I was like, 2F. Okay. There's no space. I'm not silent. Don't. If you saw my biggest friend Daffney and spell it Daphne, no, you're not. I'm not silent. Fuck face. 2F. So I'm like Daffney, and it's pretty easy to read. So that freaked me out. And then after a couple months, my daddy said, have you seen if there's anything on the internet? And I'm like, I don't know. And that's why I'm making sure I do it right. And bam, 6 Daffney fan sites. And I was going, oh my God. Talk to them about this a little bit, because it's amazing. And then it kind of goes into today that you have those fans that turn into friends. You know what I mean? That they're just so cool that you're like, no, he's not just a fan. He's like, and it's not even super fan. It's like they turn into friends.
Yeah.
And so I saw one that I particularly liked, and I said, can I make this my official site? Because I know dick about computers. I still do. I don't even know how to use Photoshop. I know how to market someone and come up with a brand and a t-shirt and design some gear and a catchphrase and but ask me to do anything on, no. So all my designs, my t-shirt designs, Aaron Garcia, shout out to him. He did the ice cream one, and people, I think it was Claudio Del Rey told me, he goes, why does Daphne have a ice cream on her tights? And my shirt said, he goes, she's like, read her shirt. And he's like, ice cream. And she's like, that's how
I'm not gonna lie, that also took me a second. Once you broke it down, I was like, ice cream for
Daffney. And so but anyway, I don't know how I even got on that subject, but so I would do that, and then I would arrange, if I wasn't on the 10-day loop for WCW, like Friday night, 7:00, let's all meet. And so there was no video or thing. And they'd be like, Daffney, she's here. And there was a certain people, and I call them my ODFs, my original Daff fanatics, and Katie Stifler and Lila. I sent them high school graduation cards. They have kids now. We're Facebook friends. I went and had dinner with Katie Stifler. They came and had a crazy night in Indiana, a whole Brian Knobs, Greg Valentine story and Tommy Rich, and I almost had to beat up the promoter's wife and yada yada. So this is me having these experiences with my fans that ended up, I'm coming to Indiana. You want to pick me up at the airport? Let's go to lunch. I could Zoom, LJ. I still talk to LJ. I still talk to Malikup. So it went from that. And then it was kind of just the sheets. Like, I remember there was like the Torch and, of course, PWI Insider and Lords of Pain and, all that stuff. And they were just, don't read the sheets. Or you would and see what they'd say. And sometimes it'd get to you, sometimes you didn't. So it was kind of like with me, people were really hot or cold, And then MySpace came out.
Ooh. I forgot about MySpace.
See, I'm old, man. And I always carried one of those disposable cameras that has the charge flash. So that's why there's so many pictures of me backstage in arenas with all the superstars. I've got Sting, I've got Kurt Hennig, I've got Kevin, because I'd walk around backstage. I'd be in my gear. Can I take a picture? And I never really got called a mark because I only ever did it once. Like, when I first kind of started, I slowly went through, and then before there was camera phones where you could get the good quality, I have a suitcase full of those little film canisters of stuff.
I have.
That are undeveloped?
No, they've been developed. I've got
okay.
one. I usually would get doubles, and then I'd go and I'd be like, here's like the ward Sandra. She's I take pictures with her. She's still got hers. So I just used to do that from high school.
I'm sure that there's still a way to do it. I just need to do it. Do you remember AK one Shimmer weekend that I had a disposable camera? Because you took a picture of me taking a picture. I've never gotten it developed.
Oh,
it's been years.
Cool.
I need to. I know I still have it because I know that I've seen it, but I need to take it in. I hope it still works. But yeah, it was from Shimmer, and it was from. It had to be at least 4 or 5 years ago. So just think about like all the people that were at Shimmer 5 years ago, and I know I took pictures like at Shimmer in the locker room and probably at the after party.
Yes, because I thought it was hilarious that you're using a disposable camera.
I'm just winding it up and like.
So Daffney, do you feel like before Dirt Sheets, do you feel like the majority of your fan interactions or your perception was more positive?
Totally. All the sites that I saw were fan sites. So everyone, like, I would pop into the other ones and say, thanks for your support, keep screaming. But then my official one, I was more interactive with it. And then on MySpace, I would have a weekend and I'd be like, all right, I'm going to put it in my slideshow. Y'all can grab it. And I'd make the slideshow of the whole weekend. And then they'd be like, oh yeah, that's how you did it back then. I didn't get too much negative. There really wasn't a whole lot of bullying in the wrestling world at that point. But then right after that came Twitter.
Twitter's the worst.
It is such a dumpster fire, man. I think a big part of it too is people don't say negative things to your face. This is where keyboard warriors come in. So I'm sure that if you did have all these, the best way to have interactions was either in person or people that would take the time and invest in doing a fan page. I feel like people weren't as comfortable yet, or they hadn't figured out like, hey, this is anonymous. I can be an asshole. And that's what's been happening. And that's what also I think happened with Twitter is once people realized, oh, you can't see me. You won't know who I am. You probably won't ever. Because obviously if you're somebody who's taking the time to go to these fan sites or go to a show, you're interested in the show. You want to watch. You're interested in the person you're following. Where
nobody's making a hate site. Nobody's making a site back in 1999 of someone that they hate.
Where now it's like, I don't even know what this is about, but I'm going to comment because I can. So I definitely think that is that's a big part of it is people now have kind of like realized like, oh, you won't know who I am. So here I go.
And more people know how to use it. Back in the day, they're like, I don't know how to use this computer to begin with.
Yeah.
What's AOL?
I've been a member since I think 2008. And it definitely escalated rather quick. That escalated rather quickly. So I bit like a little bit, and then you're just like, no, they're trolls. Just block. I got to where if there'd be so many positive comments. If there's a negative one, all you gotta do is go block, and then it's gone, and then you read as positive, and so you just push that out of your mind. Just don't worry about it. But during my workers' comp claim, I hope y'all know, and I hope maybe this will help to open the world's eyes of what I was trying to do. So many people think that I filed. They're just like, oh, you sued them. No, I did not sue them. I did not file a personal injury claim because we are independent contractors. I filed a workers' comp claim. Like, I'm an employee. I got injured on the job, and I tried to change the law through the state of Tennessee. We went all the way to the highest court. We went all the way to the highest court in the workers, and then it got to where it was a stalemate, and they had to put it in the higher court. And my workers' comp attorney was like, "This is unheard of. This has never been done," And so I am a big advocate for that. The wrestlers deserve to be protected just as much as we're actors, and there's no SAG, and we're athletes, and there's no athletic commission. So I wanted to make it for y'all coming up, and I came as close. And it was really, really frustrating. But I had someone say, well, you knew what you were getting yourself into. You should be able to pay your bills. And I lost it. I had one of those moments. And I'm like, you don't even know what the hell you're talking about. I'm trying to do something monumental for the entire United States. And he came back with something else where he like kind of picked apart. So just like you said, there's some truth in the statement, but for the most, like you can spin it to where it's a little bit truthful, and I think Franny called me. She goes, stop, don't engage, abort.
Well, that's good.
Do not engage.
That's a good friend right there.
Yes.
But that's the thing about doing something monumental or trying to stand up for what you believe in. There are always going to be people that are trying to shut you down, because that's why it's not even the law yet. Like it's not even something that's into play right now, because obviously there are people who don't want it to be, and you're fighting for it. So yes, there are going to be people that are fighting you about it. And there are going to be people, whenever they see anyone stand up for anything, I don't know if it's just that they feel inferior because they realize that they've never stood up for anything in their life, anything substantial. And I don't know if it's like an insecurity thing, but why they'd want to reach out to someone to try to shut them down for standing up for something important, But we love you for that. Cause wrestling is such a bizarre world in its own little weird nutshell. And like, if you tell anyone else in any other even form of entertainment about the things that we go through and how we're not protected and everything that wrestling encompasses, they're just like, what? Like, think about the way a stunt performer or like a stunt actor gets paid on a movie set, the way that they're protected.
Union.
Yeah. They look at us like, what are you doing?
The wrestling business is really, it's its own, there's just no rhyme or reason to it. There really isn't. And if you are not like deep into it, if you're just like, just coasting on the surface, you don't even understand all of the things that really, really encompass this business. And that's why it's a wrestling business. It's not a wrestling sport. It's, it's because it's a sport, it's entertainment, it's this. It's a whole different animal.
It is. Later in my career, I got into the habit of saying, "Oh, I've performed there. Because I didn't, or I've worked there." But because even like I said, I got 20 years in, and even back then, people would say, "Oh, what is it like?" They find it out, and it's a mystery, right? And you're like, man, it's its own little world. You have no idea. We have our own language. We have, and each sports has their terminology, but we go way above and beyond. It's a whole way. I can't imagine. I said, "Hey, sister. Hey, brother. What's going on?" Who's this jabroni trying to cut me off? I can't imagine not talking that way, and I haven't been in a ring in 10 years. So
its own culture, really.
Yeah, and we're a bunch of traveling circus freaks. And it's like you go to the town, you put the big top up, you do the show, and then you go, And so I was gonna try to tie it back around to starting off, because one of the things that you were saying, how behind the times, a lot of these companies are, and they still keep it that way with how wrestlers are classified in their tax bracket, or what type we get, to how behind the times they are, to what I'm really proud about our performances are that we are so welcoming now to so many different types of people. I love it. It's like like any of all the sports, we are way more ahead of let's, and we're all behind them. And other sports are, they're trying, but we just we kick that door open and just change that stereotype real quick. I don't care. I'll wrestle a dude. Everybody is human, and we all are. And we all just want each other to do good. That's how, I just want to, let's go in there. Let's do the dance. Let's take care of each other, and everybody go home safe so we can do it again the next night. But then, like I said, the opposite end of that spectrum is how behind the times they are with that, and with the gender pay gap. So that's how I was like, let me
loop it all back.
I'm looking at my notes and I'm like, okay, wrapping it back around. So I guess I can tell my Miss Liz story here. because that's early on, and that's like stuff I can talk about how it was back in my day, and then how it was up until the last TV run that I had, and what a degrading, humiliating as a female that ate, slept, breathed. I mean, my whole day was training. I drive to Dusty Road School. I train all day. Every weekend I was hitting towns. I mean, for years. I was a road warrior. And so it's not like we do any less work. In fact, we do more. Because then we've got to get dressed up pretty and do the photo shoot and this and that. And, and you have to go the extra mile. And you still get paid less. Did we get a paycheck for the knockout photo shoots that we went and got our own garb for? And that we did? Do we get paid extra for that? No, but you're doing a knockout shoot. So it's such a double standard. And even back in the day, and this is where I'll go into the Miss Liz thing, because being in quarantine, you guys know me, I'm so out of touch. I look on our personal Facebook pages. That's how I keep up with what's going on with y'all. I don't pay attention. I haven't posted on social media. I said, nope, I need a month break. I'm moving houses. I didn't want to look. The last video I posted was some stupid, can I pet that dog? And have you seen that little, can I pet that
Oh my gosh. I love it. Can I pet that dog?
Can I pet that dog? I just, like, it's funny. It makes me laugh. I'm going to post that, and then I'm just going to work on it. What is the best thing right now for my mental health? Shut that off. Play with my rescue dogs. Hang out with Smiling and say, give me some skin, give me a high five, and that's how I have had to learn, and it's through therapy, which is another thing that y'all talked about. I've been seeing a therapist for over a year. It's gotten to where she hypnotized me.
I have so many questions about that.
That's why I was like, hey, I can run the gambit with stuff, and I'm like, I'm gonna try. Have I been talking too fast?
No, you're good. Let's start with the Miss Liz story, and then we'll get into the therapy after that.
Cool. Okay, so when I started with WCW, it was like the Nitro Girls, and Tori was there, and Miss Liz, and Medusa, and Miss Madness. And so, I go in the locker room. Now, I'm brought up military. My daddy was in the military. So I'm brought up, if a person comes in the room and you stand to greet them. As a child, my father, he was not like, he was just military, and he wanted his children to have proper manners, And so someone comes in the room, you stand up to introduce themselves. Don't make them come to you and just sit in your chair. And, so I walk in the locker room and I just go, hi. I didn't even know that was etiquette. But I knew who a lot of them were, and I knew who Miss Liz was, so I was just like, play it cool, And I think because of my growing up, I always was like one of the boys. I have an older brother, and I, was always real kind of laid back. I fit in with the dudes. In the Pro Wrestling Tees podcast, I told the story about how Kevin Nash ribbed me, and I thought that he was mad. I thought I had to nut him. I had to low blow him from behind. And he always was he was polite to me, but he was very intimidating because he's like big stack.
So big.
Walk by and be like, hello, Mr. Nash. So then they tell me what I have to do. You have to go in and save David and nut Kevin Nash. And I'm like, okay, Mr. Nash, yes, sir, I know what I need to do. I know I need to go to the side. I'll be there. I'll be on time. I know my cue. Okay. I got there. I'm on time. Boom. He clamps his legs together and he just timber. And I go down with it. And I'm like, oh, shit. I nutted Kevin Nash. He is pissed. But his stomach is starting to hurt, man. He's boiling with pain. So he finally let my arm go, grab David, go to the back. I let all the dudes talk, because back then you had to let the guys talk. And then you had to come in and, was my spot okay? And, da-da-da-da. And you literally, as a woman back then, you were a novelty. You were nothing more than a novelty. And so I went over to him, and I was like, I waited, and I was like, Mr. Nash, I'm really sorry. Did I get you with that? And he goes, I took you down with me. And I just busted out laughing. I mean, that's funny as shit. And they saw I could take a rib. I didn't like, well,
How dare you?
And from then on, man, they all were nice. All the dudes were nice to me. Lex said Vicious used to, come on, Daffy, scream right now. And he just like in the wardrobe going, oh, okay. So Miss Liz was always really nice. Lex was real quiet. And I remember so green and sitting at the table at catering. And, I'm like, oh, Miss Liz, and I used to work out at the Main Event Fitness in Marietta, Georgia. It was Sting and Lex Luger's gym. And so I would see her over there too. And so she's like, Daff, come sit with us. And he's just, I'm like, hi, Lex. And he's like, you're over. And I'm thinking in my head, that's it. It's over for me. They're going to fire me. I don't know. So I wait. I'm just like, oh, okay. I go in the locker room and I was like, Miss Liz, Lex said it's over. That means it's over for me. And she goes, no, it means you're over with the crowd. And when you come out, they pop. And I was like, pop? So I knew nothing. I really didn't. It wasn't that I didn't know anything about wrestling. I just didn't know the inside terminology. You know what I mean? So from then on, I brought my Miss Liz trading card, and I was not going to say, will you sign this? It was so. So when it came down to, they tell the whole story on the Dark Side of the Ring, that show. And they start from, Randy and Miss Liz get a divorce. And then they're separated for a while. And then she's at WCW with Lex. And then Randy gets a job there. And he's still in love with her and trying to protect her and stuff. And I think it was Linda Hogan saying, when she said she was dating Lex, she's like, oh, girl, he's married, And I mean, her apartment was right by the gym, her and Lex's apartment. And then his family was over in Lawrenceville. And y'all know because y'all come to Atlanta all the time. That's how it was. And so they talk about how it just slowly, they didn't really use Lex and didn't really use her anymore. And then they cut to the 911 call at her house when she dies. And I'm like, wait a minute, you just skipped about 8 months of her life that I was very much involved in. And Scott Hall, and it really, what pissed me off, and that I'm really glad to have this platform, because it seems like all the podcasts that, like, a lot of people, it's all dudes, and it's like, so they get to say whatever the fuck they want and talking shit about me. And I'm like, did you fact check? I mean, for real. Miss Liz, yes, she definitely was the first lady of wrestling because she made it and she never had to have a match. And I am in tears. I'm going, looking at, I'm like, fuck you, Eric Bischoff. And I was like, yes, she did. And it was with me. And I'm like, why it's on YouTube. Daphne, I still have my tank top, Liz Will Die, that is like, I can't, I made that tank top, and then when she died, it's like, oh my God, it was so hard. And so we had to go to the power plant. And she's like, Daff, you meet me at the power plant. Lex is going to come. And if you watch the match, I mean, it's just me helping her. Like, I'm going to stall. So we can just do schmoz in the beginning. We don't even have to lock up. Because she, I was like, I'll come in. I'll make a big to-do. I'll just run around in circles. And you come up. And then I'll just scream in your face. And then she slaps me. she slapped me so hard that she was nervous. I mean, it was, She did not want to do it. We ended up going up to the power plant about 3 times for about 4 or 5 spots. She had never had to get into the ring except for to be hoisted onto Randy's shoulder. Never had to do anything other than slap them. So she's, I'm sorry if I'm going to hurt you. I'm sorry if I pull your hair. I'm sorry if I do this. And then they took away her wedding dress, her evening gown. They wouldn't let her do her hair. And they put her in camo pants and a black t-shirt, and they kind of were like drill sergeant, like, well, you've slinked by all these years of just, walking around the ring, and now you got to get in the ring, and then. And just let me say that she pretty much had to, because as a woman, even though she was a Miss Elizabeth, and this is at the end of her career, she could not afford to breach her contract. Now, do you think one of the other people of her caliber, a gentleman, would have to be worried about breaching their contract? Come on, Miss Liz. And she literally told me, they are forcing me to do this. So that's
scary.
So that dark side of the ring, bro. You know what I'm saying? Where's that dark side? She's gonna negate everything she went through and then make it look like, oh, she just got hooked on pills and Lex gave her too much? Nah. Y'all broke her down. She cried. She had to do a cage match. She had to wrestle Ronda Singh. She wrestled Medusa. And I love Medusa, but Medusa was trained in Japan. So Liz was terrified. I love Medusa. But Liz was like, oh, not that she didn't like her, but she just didn't want to do it. But was forced to. So that's the first TV run. And then you get to the second TV run where there's, I was on the first ever TNA pay-per-view. When they had the 10-woman lingerie battle royal, but there was only 9 of us. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It was me, Franny, Alexis Lurie, like Electra from ECW and a couple other people. And they told us we were going to be in a lingerie battle royal. Didn't know they were going to tape 2 shows that same day. So we have to go out in like clothes, and then we just say the next show. These are all the girls that are going to be in the battle royal. And then the next show, we do the battle royal. So we all are getting in like our lingerie. I wore like pleather biker shorts and like a cold corset top. I don't even know lingerie. And we were like, well, wait, how do you win? I'm not having my lingerie ripped off. So I had to run to Walmart and get these ugly ass pajamas, and the whole thing was just a mess. It was horrible. But so then you go through the whole pay-per-view period, and then you get to where they're on Spike TV, and they've decided to have this women's division, and they have the big pay-per-view, and they announce it. And I was on the short list, Terry Taylor told me, but I didn't quite make it. So I just kept throwing, like, here, what about Shark Girl? What about Lucifer? What about this? What about Daffney Dudley? What about this? And I just would throw everything against the wall. And from what I understood is they had some people go out and kind of find out what these indie girls were making on the indies. And then that's what they offered them. So then that was your nightly, but you only got it Monday, Tuesday, skip a week, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So you hear the stories of holding a belt and having to have a day job.
Yeah.
And that was 10 years ago. And I think it's probably a little better. I don't know. I mean, y'all are still involved. Wow. Well, that's interesting.
I think it depends on where you go.
Yeah. Yes, that makes a big, big difference. It depends what company you work for, where the pay gap is still there. It's definitely still there.
The pay gap, not just the gap, but even just
the pay in general.
Just the pay in general, but also there is, in addition to the pay in general, a pay gap as well. That is still very much happening in many places. But I did want to ask you, since we're still talking about WCW a little bit, right now it's much less taboo to wrestle men. Intergender wrestling is much less taboo than it was back in the day. However, there are still so many people that are very firmly against it for a variety of reasons, all which I will argue, but not right now. So I'm curious what it was like, because you wrestled men back in the day, back in like early 2000s. So what was that like, not only with the fan perception, if you were able to receive that, but also like how were the men to work with?
Well, good question. I was so looking forward to doing this because I was like, it's not going to be boring. It's going to be stuff that I've never been able to address, because you guys are geniuses and are a shining example about women in this business should be like right now. And I am not kissing anybody's butt. I'm speaking the truth. What do they say now? That's truth, man. I feel like if people come to me and they say, will you watch my match? Like Nikki Storm, oh, Daffney, will you watch me match and me promo? And, you'd go, I'd be like, oh, Nikki, I got nothing, because she would be so great.
She's so amazing.
Your promos are better than mine. I need to be learning from you, sister. But that means the world. You know what I mean? When you get that, you're like, they care about what you think. And sometimes you have the dudes do it too. They'll say, hey, Daffney, will you watch my match? And I'm like, sure, I can do both, because that's where I started. Is the first person I got in the ring with was Crowbar, Shane Helms, Terry Taylor would jump in there. I'm trying to think who, Shannon Moore, Jimmy Wang Yang, Jamie Noble. You know, we'd all be in the ring before the show, and they'd be showing me stuff. And the first thing he's like, "You have a gymnastics background? You think you could jump up on my shoulders and flip backwards?" And I'm like, "Oh, you mean like this?" And they're like, "Holy shit!" You know, so they're like, and then you see the agents back there going, "Oh, you know, what can we do with this?" And so our first feud was with Vampiro on the Misfits, and Vampiro is such a sweet guy, and he refuses to put his hands on women. Back then it was just no. Even though we were the heels and I'm jumping up to distract him, it was supposed to be kind of like I jump up and he was just kind of gonna shove me up like with the ropes. He didn't even want to do that. First, it was just going to shove me. Then it's like, we'll just shake the ropes. He's like, no, I'm not going to go anywhere near her with my hands. I'm going to turn and I'm going to be like, well, I'm not going to hit a girl. That was back in 2000, and that's how he felt. And I totally got it. But then when you win the cruiserweight belt and you have to defend it, and it's a 3-way dance with Chavo Guerrero and Disco Inferno, and oh no! And I'm going, I just got my tonsils out. I'm having to use it. And then I'm trying to get a crash course in how to do certain things, because I've been going to the power plant on my own. That's probably why I got a job, because I was just like, can I go to the power plant? It's like 30, 45 minutes from my house. And I think they're waiting for me to say, if you give me this much more money or whatever. And they're like, well, you have to sign a waiver. I was like, okay. And then I just would show up because I loved it.
You wanted to learn more. You were soaking it in.
So Molly Holly was there for a while, and then she left. So it was really me and just all dudes. Sarge, Mark Jindrak, Sean O'Hare, Queenie, all those dudes. And then when I got, and I'd still train, but you never really wrestled a girl. So when WCW closed, then I went to TCW Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling, which was Dusty Rhodes School. So I would go when I would train there. I wrestled a show at Cody Rhodes High School when he was like 15.
Oh my goodness.
I got a picture on my Instagram. So I mean, he's just, in this little ref shirt. It's so funny. He seems like he's just such a good guy, grew into a good guy. But so there, it was still there was only one other girl there, and I won't name names, but I didn't really she didn't get along with me because she was jealous that I knew more and the guys knew who I was. And I'd say, oh, well, this is how we used to. And so it was like they were helping me more, but then I'd give them pointers. Oh, this is how they do it. And you want to try to do it that way. So in DCW, we had a lot of like mixed tags, but kind of the general rule was if the girl gets tagged in, well, the dude goes in and tags in the girl.
Yeah.
But then I got to where it was like me and Delirious versus two other skinny dudes, and we do them and do our characters and stuff like that. But I don't think I ever had like a one-on-one intergender match, because my last match was in 2010. So I kind of missed that. Like another thing, what wouldn't I give to have been able to wrestle like a little bit and shine, so I could have worked both of y'all.
Right.
I had so much more in the gift.
But though I'm so happy that we got to still work together, even if it wasn't in a singles match,
Yeah.
But I did want to, just touching back on the intergender thing. Mm-hmm. Was anyone weird about you winning the Cruiserweight Championship in WCW? Were they upset about it? You don't have to name names, obviously, but like I can imagine that there was a little bit of resentment.
Well, it doesn't matter. I can name names here, but like Vinny Roos just telling me what we're gonna do, and I thought it was cool that Crowbar could co-win it with me. But then our match that we actually did it, we like thumb wrestled. I gave him a wedgie, and we did a couple things, and I like the psychology of it. How Crowbar would like go to do a move. He'd do a move on me, and then he'd go to pin me and be like, "No, I'm sorry, Daff," you know. And then how I was just checking on him, like, "Okay, you okay?" And then Mickey J counted, and I'm like, raise my hand, I'm like, "Huh?" And I'm like, "Oh, I win." Now it's a joke. It's funny. Vinny Rue is infamous for writing things that are off the wall. I owe him a lot. Him and Terry came with a governor character, so without that to sink my teeth into, you know. But I think Crowbar should have won. He deserved it. It was such an honor. I did not realize how offensive it was towards some of the guys until a little bit later. And then I have some guilt about it, and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, it was a fluke, and it's funny." I said, but it's pretty cool. I still am proud of it, you know. And
you can't feel guilty about that. You didn't write that story.
You didn't champion for that. It was something that was that you worked for.
I don't really like feel guilty. I just like want people to know I kind of understand where they're coming from, you know.
And that's fair.
I did a pre-tape in my wedding dress, and I had the belt on, and with Mean Gene. And he's like, "Daffney, you know, what do you feel about it?" And I was like, "Well, gee, I said I wanted a ring, not that ring." And I said, "Okay, because I'm going to get married." And then I like looked at his tie. I go, "You got something right there." And he looked down, and I went, "Boop." And I hit him in the nose. I mean, you know, the old school joke. Him and I never really had to go over what we were going to say. I loved Rest in Peace, Mean Gene. He would, if we knew that it was me and him, we'd be like, "Oh, what are we? Oh, we'll go. This is going to be good. Let's just go." And so I did that to him, and, you know, he sold it and was like, and, you know, I skipped off. And then it's about time for me to go. And Jeff Jarrett's the heavyweight champion. So he's got his belt on, and I got my belt on. And I go, "Oh, look, we both got belts." And I pointed at his belt, and he looked down and went, "Boop."
Did you just do that on the fly?
He hates me. He hates the fly. Woo, he hates me. He never looked at me the right. That's why it took so long to get a job at TNA. Chuck Jarrett's like, "Fuck that bitch."
Oh my God.
She pooped me.
Before we leave 1999-ish, Marty, I want you to go over your book.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was like, let's not. Okay. So I've given my life story a few times already, but I was born in New York, moved to the Dominican Republic until I was 7. So when I was 7, I moved back for good. I believe that was like 90. I think it was either 96 or 97. I'm really bad at math, so I never can remember. But I started watching wrestling with my cousins, and I didn't speak English, so I was just learning English. I've always said like wrestling was such a big part of why I was able to learn English. That and Chips. Those are like the two things I watched. Was so Eric Michael Estrada is like in my heart, but wrestling. And so I don't know where these notebooks came from, and I'm gonna send pictures so that we can put it in. I don't know where these notebooks came from, but I lived next door to 3 of my cousins, and they used to come over every day, and somehow we started what was called the WWF team. But so I do remember that we watched WCW a lot. Like it was like 50-50, but it's so crazy. So basically in this notebook, this is the original dirt sheet here, you guys. Yeah. We used to write results. We used to write results on here. And so like the first page is WWF News Backlash 2000, which was April 30th. And so then I flip over, and I just noticed this. I flip over, and I was looking through the book. I only have 2 results written about WCW in my book, and I will read them to you. And I apologize because my spelling was horrible. Daffney, 1 F. I'm sorry, but at least I got the F. Daffney and her couple won the match. They beat Big Papa Pump. I don't know what there's it says Pa at the end, I think. No, it's just a Big Papa Pump. Then the second notice I have, Daffney, David Flair are a couple, heart. These are the only 2 things about WCW.
That's all you took from that episode.
That's all I took from the May 19th episode of Nitro. And it has to be 2000 because then a few days later, I took WWF notes for SmackDown. So May 15th, 2000, Daffney and her couple, which I'm assuming was David, won the match, and then you guys became a couple on May 15th. And those are the only WCW notes that I have in my book. I don't know why. So the only notes I have on here are about you, Daffney.
That's all she retained from
That's
WCW.
all I retained from WCW was Daffney. So
no, you don't understand. All these like anniversaries, like in April, it was the anniversary of the match where I got my second grade 2 concussion, and pretty much I was never the same. I tried. I never had a good match after that. I think I would get lost. I think I planted Del Rey on like one of my last days on, you didn't let go on the DDT. And I'm like, look, I have no business being in this ring. I'm just under contract. And, I canceled everything that I had. And I a lot of times feel irrelevant that I wasn't able to go on and like Mercedes or like now that they're acknowledging some of the older women that they can go have a kid and come back and just be just as appealing as before, and so there was that. And then there was like a week or so later, there was the 20th anniversary of us co-winning, and it was just too much of a trigger. But I had to put that over because I knew how important that was to Crowbar. And I love Crowbar with every fiber of my being. That man took such good care of me. He would, whoever our agent was when we were putting together the match, he kind of would take control because David was so green. And then he'd be like, okay, well, where's Daff's spot? What's Daff's spot? And just always. I was lucky. I got to do more. I got more screen time and got to do more because the Nitro girls were like in the commercial breaks and stuff. But it's such an honor to hear people of your generation, you Marty, like my book club, Puente and Riri and Leva is like, no, when I saw you on WCW, she's like, oh, maybe then I can do this because I don't look like Tori Wilson or Stacy Keebler, but this is the only 2 girls that Vince took. He fired all of us girls, and so it really, really means a lot to me that maybe I never held a lot of belts, and the belt that I did hold was kind of a silly, let's say. So you're no negative self-talk, no joke, or it was just a silly. I like to think I was good enhancement talent. I was a good ring general. I could wrestle a little bit of every style. I could see people's strength. Jelly would always be like, I had Cat Power's first match at Shimmer. I had Nicole Matthews' first match at Shimmer. So, he'd be like, all right, we'll go out there, tell me what's up. And I'd go out and be like, yeah. I'm like, Cat Power.
Honestly,
we're having
sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but like, you can't sell yourself short. Like, you don't realize how much of a trailblazer you really were. Like, you were, so many people give credit to, not to knock Lita or anything, but so many people give credit to Lita for being like that first alternative chick. And like, when I think of the first alternative chick I saw, it was you. You were the one who wasn't on there with, you didn't look like a Nitro girl. And that's not to say that you looked bad in any way, but it was like, oh, there's an alternative that looks good. It's not just blonde and whatever. And, I'm not knocking the blondes and whatever, but also I did want to say, even though I know you've mentioned before that you kind of joke about you being a jobber or like the comedy stuff, but like, you were given a role and you played it perfectly. Not everyone needs to go out there and wrestle Iron Man matches and just grapple for, you know what I mean? Like, that's not, we're in entertainment, and you were given an entertaining role and you were entertaining.
This is where I wish you had Missy in your ear, 20 years ago, because I think that's something that people forget often too, is people forget to separate the art from the artist. We're playing a role. So when people are like, well, you're just out there, like, people are always winning. People, you must not be very good if, you don't win matches, or you don't win titles, you don't win belts, you don't this or the other. You're playing a character. You really don't have a say as to if you're going to be the hero at the end of the day who saves the day and comes out with 10 belts on top, And I think that's where, like, it comes into play. Remember, you are playing a character.
yeah, and it's bittersweet. Because I'm old enough now to where I know, but like I said, occasionally when I do check up on the girls that I have, that I've been away for a while, and there's so many girls compared to when I was coming up, so I can't keep up with everybody. But every once in a while, like I did a show. I worked for Bard out in LA a lot, and Shotzi Blackheart was on the show. And then she did a show in Atlanta for Murder One, and I went there, and she was so nice and everything. And to watch, her blossom, and then her telling me, you influenced me, and that makes me proud. It really does. You're like, if I can, anybody that like pulls a little bit, like I don't think anybody, I hate people that go off tangents, especially about the why I was talking about Shotzi is she, I guess, debuted and like, well, she sucks, she hasn't won a match yet, and I'm like, no, she doesn't. I was like, she's really unique character, and she was very polite to me. I just like talked to her in the locker room, but she was very, very nice. Asked me to
I
watch
love
her
Shotzi.
match. Yeah, asked me will you please watch my match, and listened very kindly to feedback, and just seemed like you can tell from me from at my age, you can tell the girls that are gonna stick around. You're like, oh no, she won't be here that long. You know what I mean? But Josh was one of them, and I found myself getting mad, like sending her like a quick congrats, just a brief little rant, and then people were like, what do you know? She's a loser, and that stuff I just. I let that stuff roll off my shoulder. But being called a jobber and stuff, you ask Ric Flair who his favorite wrestler is, and he'll tell you George South, because he would make him look like $1 million, and he jobbed to everybody, but he's trained everybody. I trained with him, so there's an art to that. And then what I sink my teeth into is when I can do a different character. Like if you take WCW Daffney, you take Lucifer, you take Shark Girl, you take the Governor, and then you take TNA Daffney. And so when I'm given that, that's where I excel. Wrestling, I can get by, give a good match. But you give me something to sink my teeth into, a promo, a design, just any kind of facial expressions. I'm glad we're not on a podcast because I got 5 chins. But I mean, like, I always like these girls that are getting Botox at 25 and stuff. I'm like, how do we know that you're selling?
Yeah.
Like,
Maybe a few more years.
Definitely, it's wild how many characters you've played. Who was your last match? You said it was 2010 was your last match?
Yeah, I don't consider my last televised match my last match because I was hurting really, really bad, and they were just trying to reintroduce the knockout tag titles. So they were doing a tournament, and I had done a feud with Taylor Wilde and Sarita. And then they didn't use me for a while, injured, I would just do a few things. And then they did, the first week of December, they did 5 days straight. So then every Thursday would be covered so you wouldn't have to work through the holidays. And the first night, me, Sarita versus the Beautiful People. And I'm like, y'all, I was like, look, I have really, everywhere I go, I'm like, we got to protect my head. We got to protect my head. I'll do the best I can. And I'm like, I mean, I'll wrestle, but we really, and they're, oh, we'll take care of you. And so who takes the bump and feed and the finisher and the 3 count? I didn't get one bit of offense. So that's my last match.
Was that 2010? That's wild to think that how much has changed with protocol around concussions since then, that you were still expected to wrestle. And I'm sure if you would have said no, somebody, whether they be in the office or not, I'm sure the girls would have understood, but I'm sure someone in the office would have, not been as understanding.
Well, what happened was that night I stayed in the room with Mickie James. I talked to her about this not too long ago. And I'm just sitting there and I'm just so mad. I'm in so much pain. And I looked at her and I was like, Mickie, I can't. And I said, I'm going to have to tell him tomorrow. I can't work. And I had an idea for a photo shoot. And I was like, maybe if I do that for him. I said, I don't know if I'll ever be able to wrestle ever again. And I never did. And I went to work the next day, and they told me what I was going to do, and I pulled Terry Taylor aside, and I just said, Terry, I can't work. I'm scared. You know, I already knew they didn't like me. They didn't want to give. Only way I got that job is just because I could play Sarah Palin, and that's the only way. And then they just saw me work, and really want it. And when I agreed to get my hair cut, then that's when they gave me a contract. You know, so I went to work and I said, Terry, I can't work, but I'll do a photo shoot. And so I'm getting ready, and I see Dixie go over and look at me and say something to him and then walk away. And he walked up to me and he said, Shannon, if you can't work, you can't work. And they said, I can't work. And they were like, where are you going to do a photo shoot? And they said, if I can't work, I can't work. And everybody kind of just, I said, see y'all later. And then I didn't. And then my contract was up in March, and they took me off the website the day before my contract expired because, you know, they hated me that much. And I'm like, oh, they took it off. It's probably because I filed a workers' comp claim. You know, so, screw those guys. But I consider my last match was in Ohio, and it was against Sarah Del Rey. And we decided she was going to do all these Kevin Nash moves. She was just going to do Kevin Nash moves.
Those are the best matches.
But then, you know, like I'm like Chip. Like, you can bend me in half. Like, Kong has put me on my shoulders and made me kick myself in the head. And cheerleader Melissa does this spot, and where it looks like she's breaking her back. And with me and Chip, she can drop to her knees. And the eyes just like, oh! But like, oh, that's a good stretch. You know, so Sarah had this hold, and she put it on me, and she goes, ooh, I bet you I could do this. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's good. So, like, she was really careful with me. We put in this spot for me to get a hope spot, and it was like an inverted DDT, and I know that's where I planted her a little bit. But it was fun. I did feel bad, and I just knew. It's like, you don't need to be in here. You're going to hurt somebody. You're going to get hit in the head one more time, and you're going to be a vegetable, you know? So that one, and then I guess my last Shimmer match, which was I quit Shimmer in my career match. And that was my last Shimmer match. I quit match. And when I said I quit, I cried. And the fans, like, realized, I think, that I really wasn't going to be coming back. And they went from cheering for Rachel to win to, please don't go, please don't go.
Oh my God, just give me chills.
Oh.
So I don't want it to be all doom and gloom, but
no, I mean, this is part.
Is life.
It's not about doom and gloom. This is your life. Yeah. And even then, even though that was your last match, or those were your last matches, you still have been involved in the wrestling business for 8 years after that. I think, was your last appearance wrestling related? Was that with ROH?
Oh,
in 2018?
Yeah, when I came out for when Sumi won the belt. They wanted ROH alumni, and I'm like, okay, yeah, Second City Saints. I was an original member, okay. And but then I was the only girl. I thought at least like Danger, or you know, like, and then I was like, okay. But I think it's because they just knew I was already going to be there doing the con and signing with Franny. So, but yeah, I did that, and then I did a couple seminars. But I still get emails. They're like, oh, we want to book you to wrestle Rosemary. You know, everybody wants me to wrestle.
Oh, yeah.
What would I would give everything to wrestle Rosemary. We could do, imagine the shit with our gimmicks that we could do.
Yeah.
I would love that, but
because I mean, all y'all's minds. A lot of time in Shine, I'd just be like, okay, this is what we need. You got this many minutes, maybe the finish, maybe a little of this. And then I would just leave y'all alone. And then I'd come back and I'd be like, all right, what you got? And you guys would kind of call it. And I'd be like, maybe flip that there, but perfect, because you guys got it. It was really good. But I got distracted by my point there too. Shine. And then what happened was I quit ring announcing because it just didn't feel natural. I'm not a ring announcer, and I wanted to go back to managing. I wanted to have a little bit more physicality. I had been able to lose some weight at that point, and then I realized that on my own show, me and Sal came up with Shine. Then everybody else was at it. So I made this my baby. I am a fucking curtain jerker jobber. I mean, was I not? Y'all were there, and it was like the only time we got a little bit of some wins is against you, Marty. Like they got a little bit of hope and stuff, but then no, you guys. Did I ever manage a winner? Did I ever manage a champion? Even in my own company. It's just like, girl. And so 2015, I would watch each Shine, and I would see myself just getting bigger and bigger. And I mean, I was doing everything. And I was getting blood work done and trying to figure out what was wrong. And then, y'all know this, it took like 2 years. And finally, a holistic doctor was like, you went through perimenopause at 39. Now you're menopausal and you have absolutely no thyroid. And they're like, how are you functioning? And I'm like, I work out every day. Like I'll just do like a little bit of walk and a little bit of yoga, but it's hard when you carry around an extra 90, 100 pounds. You're used to weighing $125, and I saw myself in December of 2015 and I just went, no, I was like, I'm not prepared for the bullying because my mind was not, the fat shaming had already started. And I'm like, they don't know me. Shut up, you don't know me. But I tried to have that attitude about it, but still inside it was killing me.
Do you feel that therapy has helped you all at all, or the hypnosis that you mentioned before, which I have a lot of questions about still because I don't know how that works?
Yeah. For me being bipolar, and I was in the closet for a long time about it because, I mean, back then it was, I mean, they're not going to give you a contract. Oh, you're gonna.
How did you get diagnosed? Were you diagnosed during your time in wrestling, or were you diagnosed before?
I was diagnosed after WCW. So I was diagnosed in 2003, and I was 27. So it's pretty common in women to come along, blossom in your late 20s, later 20s, and I had my first manic episode where I slept like an hour a night. I was working out, like I'd work out and hardly eat at all. I got down to 108 pounds.
Holy shit.
And I'm like, well, I feel fine. I've got energy. And I'm like, this is not me. I like to eat more than this. I normally sleep more than an hour a night. I normally don't go to the gym 3 times a day. And like eat, like I'd eat so clean. I was like, there has to be no fat in my food, no fat. And it was like my taste buds just like went numb because it was all just a little bit of nourishment that I mean. And I mean, the pictures of me when I was in XPW, that's when I was, and I am so skinny. And so one of the things when you're manic is you have delusions of grandeur. And this is about the time when I met Lagana. So I was probably pretty with him. But I pitched Lucifer, the devil herself. I got 2 horns and a tail, don't you forget it. And I had my knuckles all tatted with runes, and I did this whole thing about, and he loved the character, and I loved that he loved it. And he pushed for me, and they gave me a job. So your whole thing is, I'm going to get a job with WWE. I'm driving from Atlanta to Pittsburgh to Chicago to here to there, and I'm working. And then all of a sudden, I get the call from Johnny Ace, and then boom, I crashed. And so I'm this is when we're in Louisville. And you have to say it that way if you live there. Louisville. Yes. And it's me, Mickey, Joey Matthews, Johnny Nitro, Chris Masters, trying to think off with an OVW at that time, Paul London, like all those people. And my dad actually came up and lived with me in a 2-bedroom apartment. We had to get up and be at practice at 8 a.m. Who wrestles at 8 a.m.? So then there'd be all these injuries because you couldn't warm up enough. And our trainer was, no names, he was a jerk. And so he was just a big turkey. He just didn't like me at all. And he didn't like the girls. Me and Mickey get in there, and we wouldn't even get a minute in of trying to do stuff. And get out, goddamn ring. What the hell y'all doing? Get out. And then that's how I can't imagine what the performance center is like now. I'm like, man, it's gravy. We had to every weekend meet up at the Danny Davis Arena, which maybe 30 people could fit in there. And then we'd have to load up the ring truck, drive to some podunk town in Louisville, put up the ring, do the show, take the ring back, put it back at the Davis Arena. That's when you're under contract. That's what we had to do it's not like that now. It's NXT on TV. You know what I mean? So it was hard enough because it was hard to do, but then I couldn't get out of bed. I was depressed with insomnia. So I was just so tired. Then I got to where I was taking medicine. It was making me eat in my sleep. Y'all have probably heard the stories of me eating in my sleep and baking a cake in my sleep.
What?
My generation.
I know.
Bake the cake in my sleep story. And when you used to have all the pallets at Slammin' Ladies because everybody would sleep out everywhere, and you'd wake up and my air mattress would just have wrappers and everything. And Lexi, Daff, you ate in your sleep again.
Oh my goodness.
It's a side effect. It's a real thing. And I can't remember the technical term for it because I looked it up the other day. But I would take medicine and then I wake up and I don't really know what I'm doing. And I just go and I eat. And I'll wake up and I'll have food in my mouth or in my bed.
And that's so dangerous. Like you could choke on that. Like you could be if you're eating like a hard candy and you're sleeping. Like
and so one time I went into the kitchen and there was nothing. So I opened all the cabinets. I saw cake mix. And so I did everything, baked the cake, everything. Well, I woke up with a cake tin next to me and about maybe a quarter of it missing. And you could tell that I ate it with my hand because my hand was all it. And there was chocolate cake all down my face and I was like, what the hell? And so I walked into the kitchen and the bowl was in the bowl was in the sink and it had been rinsed out and everything. The oven was off.
Thank God.
I remember to turn off the oven, rinsed my bowl. I baked the cake. Obviously, I let it cool because
That is terrifying, though. But it's so thankful that you remembered all the important things.
If I left the oven on or the water running or
if you tried to grab it out of the oven with your bare hand or something, which
I don't know how. I don't remember any of it. And I've been like that goes along with therapy and going to my psychiatrist, Dr. J, is you have to just throw every kind of medicine against the wall and see what sticks and see which you can be the most high functioning on as far as medication goes. Mm-hmm. And it's the trifecta of medication, therapy, and meditation. Is what I feel.
Yes.
All those three things you have to do due diligence on to have good or to live a somewhat normal life, whatever normal is, within mental illness.
Do you meditate on your own or do you use an app? Do you like guided meditation or how do you do that?
Since I'm old school, I stay away from screen time and technology, as little as possible. So to be honest with you, I tried a few since my new therapist, we're going through mindfulness and stuff. So there's, all these mindful exercises and stuff. And I find I'm not like a Bible thumper religious. I don't even call myself a Christian. I say I just go straight to the source. So I just tap into that positive energy and that faith. And I just say, please give me strength. Please give me wisdom. Please, allow me to watch my words, what I say to people, make sure kind words come out. I count my blessings. Thank you for a home over my head and a dear friend that is my roommate, but also my animals that provide. I mean, if I need to laugh, I just go call Hazel. Y'all wait till I post the video of Hazel and me playing my new rescue. And I know you rescued 2 cats, right? Yeah.
Yes.
It's when you need that unconditional love that you don't necessarily get from people you should, like your family, then you go buy a dog and that's your family and that's your unconditional love, And it's worked. It's been wonders. And then consistent with Sue. And when it got really bad, I started to go twice a week. when I really feel myself slipping, like I said, I tend to be more depressed, and then I'll have kind of like an upswing, and that's when I notice I'm not sleeping as much, or I'm irritable, which is not me. Shan's low key. I always just want to make people laugh. That's me. So I know that I'm sick, or I'm getting sick. And a lot of times I go down and then I just stay there, and it's like down here. And I have a symptom of suicidal ideation, where it gets to the point where I'm burdened. I've had a great life. I was a cruiser, hey, peace, it'll be cool. I mean, people might be sad for a minute, but they'll be like, oh, but to celebrate her life, and you talk yourself into that. And I know that you guys address suicide with, Hannah was, God bless her, the cyberbullying, and she was so young. And that's kind of like, there's all different forms of reasons why people want to feel that they're compelled to take that route. And I know throughout my life, I've had to go inpatient into hospitals, and not very many people will admit that. Like, you've been in a nut house?
It's very taboo still, yeah.
It still is. And I've had to do it, because when that sadness and that burden, and you get to the point where you're making a plan, I go, I gotta check in. That's danger, William Robinson, get in the hospital. So that was the route that I took for not for you. Anytime it happened, then I would do that, periodically over the years. And then this last year, I had a lot of things going on, different than wrestling, personal problems, family things of, how life changes when you get older. And it kind of, without having your wrestling family. And then I traveled for so many years, so there's kind of like some distance with my immediate family. And it just was an adjustment, and it was, my dad's getting older, and I kind of expect our relationship to be like when he came up and lived with me, and I want to be daddy's girl again. And so it was really hard for me to accept. And I found an outpatient facility, and it was called Lakeview, and it was here, and I would go from like 9 to 1 every day, and we would do things like that. Well, there was a raid, and I went in on a Friday, and there was like 50 cops. And it was crazy, and they were confiscating paperwork, and they like shuffled all the clients back into a room, and I'm going, what the hell is happening? And the inpatient part of Lakeview, they had found a client in the freezer, and a child was discharged, and he was missing his toe.
So, what?
So here we go, and this is 2019, and that's the inpatient help that people with mental health problems that are suicidal, homicidal, that you get put in a freezer. They take your cell phone away, and it's like you're in jail. When you're mentally ill, aren't you supposed to have your support circle? They take it away from you,
right?
And it's so I left. Obviously, that Monday I'd be like, I'm not coming back there. I'm done. And so I went to go see Sue twice a week after that. It just ended up being so counterproductive. The other outpatient experience I had helped tremendously. It just, unfortunately, I wanted to bring that up because it's like, shit like that still happens. It made Atlanta news. Like, it was crazy. So with Sue, I saw that she had her PhD, and I saw that she's like hypnosis and everything. I'm like, ooh, I just want to go in and get hypnotized, but can't tell a doctor or a therapist how to treat you. So I just went in and did what I needed to do. And after about 8 months, she's like, okay, Shannon, are you ready for what we're going to do today? And normally she'd just be like, okay, what's going on? I'd be like, oh, so blah, 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 blah. And then we would go based upon what was activities were happening that week that were triggering. So she's like, no, we're gonna hypnotize you. And I'm like, oh, so excited. So basically, she's going through the motions and just talking to you, and you close your eyes, and she says, there's no hypnosis except self-hypnosis. And that's what I needed to hear. Because then I'm like, oh, this is all me. I can do it. You know what I mean? So as she walks me through it, I just let myself be, calm. And basically, you're walking through a forest and you take the path that's the healing path that you need to take. Kind of verges off, but you got to take it because that's what you're trying to do is heal. And then you come up and then there's a big cave. And so immediately, like, I'm laying there and I feel myself, I'm scared. And she's like, but you have a flashlight. And so I look down and I see one of those old school flashlights, like gray and has like the orange tip, She goes, but it's a strong flashlight. And so then it turned into a mag light. And I'm like, oh, cool. And the beam is, so then I'm walking through. She's like, you can feel the cool pebbles under your feet. And you really have to, yeah, I can feel them. Okay. But you really do have to do it yourself. And you go through all these doors, all these different kinds of doors that you have the key to. And then you come to a well that's like back in a vault. And you take everything that's in your heart that weighs heavy on you. Oh, my body image, or oh, my relationships, or oh, I don't like the way my friend has been treating me, or anything. Feel being a victim, all the gambit. You take, I literally felt myself taking rocks out of my heart, and then you dump them in the well, and they go all the way down, splish, and then they're all down there. And so then you go and you walk out, and the first door is a vault. And so I like spun it shut thing. And then the next door was like a pretty sturdy, like kind of like a freezer door. And so I opened that. And then the next one was kind of like an old timey door. And I go through that and I locked that. And then I turned around and the next one was like saloon doors. So I just like popped those with my hand, walked out, don't need to lock those. And I felt myself getting lighter. As you're walking out and you're locking these doors, you left all that shit back in that well under that water, and it's safe because it's door after door. And so then you come out of the cave. I just thought it was funny that I saw saloon doors. I made myself pop in my own hypnosis. And then she says you come to the cave and you're going to see your spirit animal or something. Now, I had no idea. But right over my right shoulder, she saw my head tilt to the left. My head tilt to the left. And it was like a cloudy kind of figure, but it was my face. And it was white and blue, a pretty cloud, and it was right on my shoulder. And I looked, she says, look at it. And it looked at me and it goes, I love you. And I'm like, I love me. I hated myself for so long. And I love me. It was the best hypnosis. I left there and I told her, I was like, did you see my head turn? She goes, oh yeah. When she woke me up, she goes, you nailed it. She's like, I said, I did? And she's like, I had goose. I said, oh, so you can tell it's working? And she's like, oh my God, yeah. I go down to my car. I feel tingly. I'm like, Tina, oh my God. I mean, it was, that whole day was just like up, like it wore me out. And we did it one other time when I was really hurting and I'm taking rocks out of my chest. And I said, Sue, there's not enough water. The rocks have come above the water. So then I just would be like, we're just nourishing. We're just giving it some more water. And it can, okay, it's ready for another rock. Now I don't have to go through the whole process. I literally just put my hand to my chest and I just drop the mic or the rock, hence. But that was my hypnosis experience, and it was freaking awesome.
That is a fascinating story. Marty and I were just talking about hypnosis not too long ago because we had so many questions for you about it. I'm so glad that it was an amazing experience. And I also feel like that's probably a good wrap-up point for this conversation. I know we covered so many topics, but thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to share. And honestly, like, you shared a lot of deep stuff that you kind of mentioned you maybe never talked about before. And I know some topics are really sensitive and we love you. And if you ever, like, honestly, if you ever need anything, if you ever just need to talk, vent, anything, if you're just having a down day, like, reach out to us. We'll be reaching out to you because we love you and we care about you and your mental health and all of our mental health.
Well, y'all are like the last kind of generation that I got to know, not as well as I'd like to have, but all the people from y'all's generation, there's so many just good sisters, and y'all two, mental health. I was like, oh, well, if it's them two, I can do it. I won't cry too much, but I was like, I can do it
And
with
it's
y'all.
all good.
Y'all give me,
Crying's all good.
you guys make me proud to have done what I would have did. So now I watch you guys just, like I said, just go out there like it's nothing, like just perform perfectly. It's just, I'm so, so proud of you all and how you've taken the ball and you've run with it. And then now you have more of a platform where you can address things that guys get to address, but we don't. And I'm just so very proud of both of you for having the cojones to just, nobody talks about this stuff, and it's important. It's important whether you're a celebrity or not. Everybody gets, bullied or depressed sometimes or needs someone to talk to. So, I'm going to take you up on it.
Yes, we really, for real, thank you, because I think that's also why Allison and I have these conversations all the time. She's my, the person that I speak to about absolutely everything with no judgment. And that's I think also very important, is you never want to feel judged or like you're not being listened to, or tell somebody that you're struggling and then get, oh, okay, so like anything you need. And I'm glad that we have been able to cultivate this safe space where people feel comfortable to talk about the things that make them the most vulnerable, because nobody ever wants to be seen as, vulnerable, and sometimes we feel like maybe showing that makes us seem weak, but honestly I think that it shows you've been through so much in the business, in your life, and you still have so much more to live. Like, your story is very, very, very far from being written, and I'm glad that we are able to be a part of it in any way. And like you saw, man, I was 8 years old and you already a part of my life. So
Absolutely. So thank you, ladies, for joining me. Thank you, Daffney, for joining us. And thank you, NWA fans, for listening to this episode of Girl Powerrr.
Love you guys.
Love you.
I love you too. For real. For real, for real.
For real, for real.
And it's the AK-47, Allison K. Okay, I had to like clear my throat about 5 times. I just had to do it. I would be honored if you put the interview up. I would promote it, and I'd love to do a follow-up. I don't know if you want to do that or not, but at least, of course, put it up, and just let me know. And let me know if you're going to be in Atlanta, because I don't know if you've seen, but I finally got a doctor to give me the right, actually believe me about my thyroid, and it has changed so much, and I'm feeling so much better. And since I've been I was on 0.025 milligrams, so 25 micrograms for over 2 years, just thinking, okay, well, if this is what my doctor thinks. And so then Laceface, told me about functional medicine. And that doctor does more naturopathic, but then also is an MD. She prescribed me, get this, I was on 60 milligrams for the first week, and then they bumped it up to 120 milligrams. So I went from 0.025 to that. And since May the 14th, I've lost 12 pounds and 2 inches off my waist. I mean, I just got to, after my hysterectomy and everything got even more fucked up, my thyroid and everything, I gained 20 more pounds. So I'm really happy I found the solution. I don't really care what people think about me anymore, the way I look. If they don't know, then they don't know. But if you're in Atlanta, I want to come see you. You and Marty. We could stand on things. It'd be lots of fun. So let me know about that if you're ever in the area. I might be going down to Florida around Halloween time, if all goes well with this. But yeah, honey, of course, just let me know. Holler here. And I love you, and I miss you too. You just look so beautiful and just doing so well.
I just still my absolute favorite.